皆様、こんにちは。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for attending despite your very busy schedules. We would now like to start the symposium co-organized by Sasakawa Peace Foundation and the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research, titled How Japan Can Meet Global Domestic Challenges and Develop the Human Resources Needed for a Brighter Future. First, we would like to ask the President of Sasakawa Peace Foundation, Dr. Atsushi Sunami, for his opening remarks. Thank you very much for attending this symposium co-organized by the Sasakawa Peace Foundation and the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research, despite their very busy schedules. We have the interest of persons active in the first lines of policy and business embassies located in Tokyo, members of the Diet and the ministries, universities, research and educational institutions, media, private enterprises, non-profit organizations, and also young students. And so we are able to hold the symposium with the participation of more than 600, including the online participants, for which we are extremely happy. So Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research and the Sasakawa Peace Foundation are part of the same Nippon Foundation group, and both foundations have a think tank functions, so we are like brother or sister foundations. And if I may be so presumptuous as to briefly introduce to you the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research, and it has engaged in important domestic issues since its predecessor, Tokyo Foundation, was established in 1997, aiming to become an independent think tank. And in 2017, it made a new start as the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research, conducting quality research in broad areas with top-class experts such as in economy, environment, energy, health and healthcare, education, social security, science and technology, digitalization, so that there is high quality policy research with the top-notch experts. And we have announced many policy recommendations. Also, it has continued to support the development of international human resources over many years through broad appeals to the world. And capitalizing on this experience, it is to change course to aim to be a think tank for the people and citizens, focusing on important issues for Japan in the age of declining birth rate and aging population, to put an emphasis on learning, education, and human resource development. Going on to the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, the objective is international cooperation and exchange, and it was established in 1986. Through flexible ideas and means worthy of a private foundation, we cooperate with various actors in and outside Japan and have conducted many projects seeking to contribute to the resolution of issues facing the international community. And in 2015, we merged with the Ocean Policy Research Institute, a marine field think tank. And since then, we have combined the think tank function, which conducts international research and policy recommendations based on its expertise in diplomacy, security, maritime affairs, and regional studies, and the so-called do tank function, which engages in dialogue among people with diverse perspectives, practice in the field, and the fostering of the next generation of leaders. And in this way, we have transformed it into a foundation that stirs up innovation towards solving global issues. So in this way, the Tokyo Foundation for Policy and Research and the Sasakawa Peace Foundation have different histories and characteristics, but about half a year ago, I met with President Ms. Izumi Kadono of the foundation and the CEO and Executive Director, Dr. Anzai, we had an opportunity to exchange views. And we thought about the changes in the circumstances surrounding Japan recently. In particular, the international situation and international order is changing. Global scale environment is changing, including climate change and technical innovation, space development, that is technical innovation, and the changes in demographics, including the declining birth rate. So we feel that there is now a limit to existing methods, and the methods of human resource building are being questioned. And so the two foundations have decided to contribute their knowledge so that we could have a discussion on the new direction and the path to follow. And after the preparatory period, we are able to hold the symposium today. So we have 3 sessions today. First session, I will act as a moderator, and there will be 3 panelists who will take the floor. The first is the expert on the foreign affairs and security, who has been the Assistant Chief Cabinet Secretary, as well as the Deputy Secretary General of the National Security Secretariat, that is our Executive Director, Mr. Kanehara. And then second, we have the expert on the China and East Asian international affairs, our trustee, Professor Takahara of University of Tokyo. Third is expert in the maritime field, that is the Executive Director Sakaguchi, who has also been the Executive Director of the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Sciences. And in this way, the international situation is changing on a daily basis. In session 1, we will keep in mind the changes in the international order and the changes in the security environment, and to think about how Japan can exert leadership, what should it be its position, its role, and the image of the talent required. Now, in session 2, we have Dr. Anzai, who will be the moderator of the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research, and there will be 3 panelists. And Dr. Anzai, as you know, he is an expert in information AI and the cognitive science. He is president of Keio University. He was the president of Keio University and the president of Japan Society for the Promotion of Science, as well as the chair of Central Council for Education. The first panelist is leading the human resource project of the Tokyo Foundation, Ms. Mari Suzuki, Executive Director. Second is the senior fellow, and he is leading the policy research on the environment, energy, and resources. That is Dr. Hiranuma. And the third is Professor Nakamura of Keio University, and she is the research director at Tokyo Foundation. And there will be introduction of the support for young researchers, as well as the shortage of human resources which are to support digital and environment resource energy field, and also the problem of the declining birth rate. And in session 3, we ask the moderator to be Professor Suzuki of University of Tokyo and Keio University, and myself and Dr. Anzai will act as panelists. And we will keep in mind what's been raised in session 1 and 2, and in the great changes on a global scale, such as international situation in climate change and technical innovation. How is Japan to open up a path towards the future, and how can we create spaces where they can be, where human resources can be active. So with regards to the theme of today's symposium, I have very strong emotions, and I look forward to the discussion. I hope that there will be an active exchange of views, and I hope that it will also be a worthwhile event for the members of the audience. And with that, I'd like to close my remarks. Thank you very much.
Dr. Sunami, thank you very much. Now we'd like to move on to the program. As Dr. Sunami detailed in his opening remark, we have 3 sessions today. But please allow me to be a little bit repetitious. But the session 1 is dedicated to Japan's role in meeting global challenges, moderated by Dr. Sunami. including and the panelists include the two directors from the foundation and also Mr. Kanehara. And session 2 is moderated by Dr. Yuichiro Anzai, and adapting to changes induced by digitalization. And the panelists are mostly from the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research. Session 3 follows, moderated by Professor Kan Suzuki of the University of Tokyo, and Dr. Sunami and Dr. Anzai representing to the co-organizers, as panelists discussing the human resources required for a brighter future. Now, without much further ado, we'd like to begin the session 1. We have the moderator and panelists from Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Would you please join me in welcoming the distinguished moderator and panelists with a round of applause. The president of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, Atsushi Sunami, and Nobukatsu Kanehara, Executive Director, Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and Akio Kanehara, Trustee of Sasakawa Peace Foundation, Professor, Graduate School for Law and Politics of the University of Tokyo, and Hide Sakaguchi, Executive Director, Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and President of Ocean Policy Research Institute of Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Now I hand over the microphone to Dr. Sunami as moderator. Thank you very much. In this session, we mostly like to discuss what should be done and can be done in the rapidly changing global situations with renowned discussants. How we should analyze today's situation, identifying the challenges and where we can together contribute to addressing them. The time is rather limited, so I'd like to invite the panelists to share their thoughts on and focuses on the rapidly changing today's situation. First, Mr. Kanehara, please. Thank you very much. I focus on the security and the Japan-US the relations in Sasakawa Peace Foundation. We now see a war going on between Israel and Hamas, and the war is still raging in Ukraine. But in the long term, the post the World War II, the system is now being replaced with the changing situations. China is rather the confrontational with the post-war order, and Mr. Putin, that Russia is also difficult to foresee. And amongst the P5 members, which have been the leader of the global the order, and Japan is also the part of the G7. Only the 10 countries that managed the politics and the economies of the world. And Japan, they joined such members of the countries, but the number of the countries increased from 50 to nearly 200. And the global south is now carrying more weight, and China is the 4 times larger than Japan, and India is now also growing rapidly, catching up, and the ASEAN also the growth is 75%, and the India and ASEAN represent nearly 10% of the global the society, and now that China cannot lead the developing world with its the ideology. We now seeing new leaders such as India, Indonesia, and Mexico and Brazil, for example. And amongst these the other countries and the leaders, well, perhaps the human resources may emerge as to how to lead the world. But the Japan and also and how to develop human resources in these countries would perhaps should be they developed by Japan, which are located between China and also and the European nations. Well, the benefit of the economic growth that was used for the welfare and the social programs in order to replace so to speak the Marxist ideology. But the tax revenues are declining in Japan, but the requirement for the public funding is growing very rapidly. So the post-Cold War, the Japan designed and by Shigeru Yoshida is now being challenged, and the instincts for survival they have to be called for in order to design the future of Japan in the global scene with the Cardi endowment and the German Marshall Fund, renowned the donor nations, and Sasakawa is perhaps the Japanese donor organization, and not only as a donor, but also we'd like to be a human resource development organization in the global society. We'd like to be of use and help to the international community in that sense as well. Thank you very much. Next, Professor Takahara, please.
So it is now a complex age. You have such a hot summer. Have we ever had such a hot summer? And there's the pandemic. And in addition to that, wars are occurring in all kinds of places. So that people are living in anxiety, and we have no longer safety and peace of mind in this age. Now we talk about democracy and authoritarianism and the developed nations versus the non-developed nations, which is a binary opposition kind of relationship. But during the Cold War too, there were two, it wasn't that there were two worlds actually, there was another world called the Third World. And as Mr. Kanehara just mentioned, it is now called the Global South. So it is an era of composite crisis, and we see division. So how can we overcome division? That is a major challenge that we face. And what is the phenomenon of division? To understand that, I think globalization concept holds the key. In other words, in domestic society, there is division, and due to globalization, there are people who profit, and there are others who do not profit, and the gap or the divide is expanding. That could be one reason, and also globalization, and especially the rapid globalization over the past 3 decades and the rise of China, you could say that they are the two wheels of a cart and they have moved together. And that is the present situation. It is a factor that has created the present world. And China, well, they have one-party rule, authoritarian structure. And this country has risen and is collaborating with Russia. And in the international community, that is a major factor of division. I don't think we can deny that. And so you have a kind of turf war trying to bring in the global south to your side. So that being the case, what is it that Japan should do? of course, it's no longer the Cold War days. That is, we have strong economic ties with China. More Chinese EVs sell, Japanese companies also profit. So there is a very deep economic tie, and China is on the rise. So what should Japan do, and what should other countries do, and how can we stop the international divide and the divide domestically so that we can cooperate, we can live feeling a sense of peace and ease. I'm sorry to go on and on. I should keep my eye on the clock. So I think the important concept is human security, and I am at JICA's Sasakawa Peace Institute. I'm a senior advisor there. And a concept that we value is human security. What is human security? Well, simply put, it's not so difficult. There are three things to uphold. That is a human life. That is, all lives of humans need to be protected, and people's daily living should be protected. And that's not all. Another thing is dignity, to protect people's dignity. So these three can be a banner under which Japan can promote international cooperation, and various kinds of people can collaborate and try to survive this age of complex crisis. And then there is human security as a methodology. That is, how can the lives and dignity of people be protected? We think it's not just protection or empowerment. Well, we call it empowerment. That is, we protect people in need, and we try to enhance individuals' capability. But that's not enough. In other words, the resilience of the state. There are many countries with problems where you cannot guarantee human security. So national resilience, the resilience of the community as an institution, and through reinforcing education should be realized, and Japan can contribute there. So I think we should value human security as a methodology, and Japan should be proactive in such international cooperation. Thank you very much. We'd like to go on to Dr. Sakaguchi. I'm from the Ocean Policy Research Institute. My name is Sakaguchi. And if I talk about maritime affairs in general, it'll take about 10 days. So the maritime community, there is a common understanding in the world, that is, there's the 70-80-90 law, and those of you who know, you don't need to be explained. That is, 70% of the world is covered by water. And I think this is what we learned in elementary school. And what is 80? I think those of you who know, but it's not taught so much in schools. That is, 80% of mankind live in the coastal area. That is, edge of continents or the edge of islands. So 80% of people live in the coast right near water. And what is 90? Well, mankind don't know about the 90% of the ocean. We only know, in other words, about the 10%. That's the extent of our knowledge. That is, what is the topography of the ocean, or what is in the ocean, or there are large, small living things, and currents are flowing, and the functions. We only know 10%. That is why, as Dr. Takahara said, of course, global warming is such a serious issue, but the role of oceans, the function of the sea, humans only know 10%. So without our knowing it, the ocean has become so warm, and it is made up of water. So once it becomes warm, it's difficult to cool down, unlike land. So the ocean, well, it feels cool in the summer. That's why people go swimming. But even going swimming, I think we are approaching an age where it won't be so cool in going into the sea. That means if it's not pleasant for humans, it's not going to be pleasant for the living organisms and life in sea. So how is that going to affect the human security? We're not sure. And well, I am the president of Ocean Policy Research Institute. I work in this building, and it's away from the sea. And what is important is that why don't humankind know about the ocean? Well, even compared to outer space, we don't know about ocean because it's difficult to investigate the ocean because it costs a lot of money and a lot of time. And because of that, the sea is often forgotten. But if you look back, the Pacific War was when Japan suffered a major defeat. And at that time, we fought with the United States. And the American military, well, they were engaged in war with their military vessels, but they were doing the research of the ocean floor, the topography, and it requires a lot of funds. If you wanted to investigate this alone, then you don't get funding. So the United States used the military vessels going back and forth in the Pacific, and the military vessels did the investigation of the undersea topography. And outside 200 nautical miles, they found that there isn't that much that is valuable. And so after the war, President Truman came up with the Truman Declaration, and within the 200 nautical miles of the U.S. is where the U.S. can conduct economic activities, and other countries can also follow this rule as international law. However, Asia, if you try to apply that law to Asia, then what happens? It overlaps with the adjacent countries, and as a result, there is the struggle over maritime rights. In other words, not knowing has created a very difficult situation. You cannot investigate, you don't see, it takes money. And in the future, marine policy will have to cover those unknown areas scientifically, but because we have no knowledge, and we need to gain understanding, but we can say that the key point will be the rule making. In other words, existing rules. If you apply those rules internationally, then as the experts on international law and the law of the sea know, there are so many problems. Therefore, right now, Institute with Marine Policy is very rare, and in leading the maritime policy, we at the Ocean Policy Research Institute are taking the lead. But in recent years, ocean policy, marine policy, we should have active study of this as a policy study. And I think we're moving in that direction. And the Ocean Policy Research Institute is not a university, but as a think tanks in international fora, we are in a position to lead in the ocean or marine policy. Therefore, with regards to the marine policies, I hope that we can continue to have a discussion with you.
少しですね、足元
Thank you very much. So we focused on the area surrounding us, but we'd like to look into the future a little bit. First, Mr. Kanehara, our foundation has an office in the Washington, D.C. So what about the relationship between Japan and the United States? The U.S. presidential election will be held next year, and Mr. Trump is outstanding in terms of the popularity amongst the Republicans. So looking into the near future, how do you see the bilateral relations between Japan and the United States and the other issues? Thank you. Well, NATO or the EU, well, the U.S. is the most important and reliable ally for Japan. But of course, there is a major difference between Biden and Trump. But the 170 years, combining the ages of these two, the main the figures. So the American public is a little bit tired of it. And DeSantis is now was the stronger, but his popularity is a little bit declining, and Nikki Haley, the former the U.S. The ambassador to the United Nations, and maybe she might be a more stronger candidate vis-a-vis Trump. But whoever the next president of the United States, we need to face with the very growing and the U.S. and also the Russia and the nuclear armed the North Korea. So the Korea, the Philippines, and the Australia, the American allies. But we need to continue our strong the alliance relations with the United States. So whoever the next president, we need to build the very solid relationship with the United States with our alliance relations. Yeah, thank you very much. What we should do and can do, and how we can contribute as a foundation. We'd like to hear your idea later on. But the Professor Takahara, the human, the security, as you stressed, it's a very important mission for us, even though we are in the private sector. Whatever we do, we need to have the very strong faith with that, and I am glad that you stressed that. But I'd like to hear your view into the future. You mentioned China, so which direction do you think we will go into the future with the president with China? Some say that the Chinese economy might be a little bit unstable, and also the foreign minister and the minister of defense recently resigned. So what do you think of the future of China? Well, it would take a long time. I wonder what I can say in a very short period of time. But right now, many Chinese people are beginning to concerned about the future of their own country, particularly their last year's zero COVID policy suffered. It was so many painful for so many Chinese people, and that was lifted even though China was not very prepared, and the number of the official number hasn't been released, but one of my friends said that there are nearly 1 million people died of the COVID. And as to the economy, from January through the March, we saw the sign of recovery, but then the economy is not doing well, not faring well. So particularly the uncertainty into the future are a major concern amongst the young people, and they are increasingly looking into the moving abroad, the potential possibility of the moving into other countries as immigrants. Some of you might have seen some of the Chinese people recently moving and living in your neighborhood. And I'm one of such the Japanese, and and globally, Chinese presence is very strong. So instability of China would have a major impact globally. So I think the level of concern is now rising. So it's really difficult to predict. But I wish a soft landing of China. Otherwise, everyone would suffer. Of course, the Japanese and other countries can do very little, but politically and the economically, well, the politically, the present the regime. Not many Chinese don't think that the present Chinese regime would continue, but when the change might start and whether the process of change would be peaceful, these are one of several of many concerns of the Chinese people, and the foundation and also the universities have been thinking of what we can do. Next month, the ASEAN leaders come to Japan to celebrate the 50th anniversary between the ASEAN and Japan the relations. And I think China's the influence is the very important issue for Japan as well. So what do you think? I think, of course, Japan's relation with ASEAN is very important. Of course, in which direction ASEAN will go diplomatically, this is a very important issue for us. Of course, they are very pragmatic. Japan's economic assistance with the strong played a very large impact, but the fund flowing from China is more influential, and they are friendly naturally because with China, but they. Of course, they are also they don't welcome the excessive presence of China as well. In Singapore, there is a research institute which conducted a questionnaire survey of ASEAN elites, and which country is is a major influence in ASEAN, and 80 to 90% answered yes, China. But 60 to 70% of the respondents also said that they were concerned about the growing the presence and influence of China in their own countries. Of course, we don't need to eliminate China. And free and open Indo-Pacific that Japan has been espousing is a very inclusive concept. And as the former Prime Minister said, Japan is ready to cooperate with a good project or the program from China. So we shouldn't be antagonistic. Otherwise, that would alienate the people of Southeast Asia. So we need to try to design a policy that would benefit to both Japan, China, and Southeast Asian countries as well.
Going back to Mr. Kanehara. So the diplomatic relationship with the countries nearby, what do you say about that? There is a book called Rikto by Kamatari Fujiwara, and it says that you have to ally with the strongest country, and I think that has not changed for thousands of years. If the international community is being led by the U.S., even if their power has started to decline, and the mercantile society that's been created has to do with internally and internationally building a society for self-fulfillment, and we are clearly part of that. And so what kind of countries will come into play? We don't have NATO or EU. And we have the allies, Philippines and ROK and Australia, Australia have close ties. Korea, well, there is the 180-degree difference whether it's conservative or the reformist. So, well, the Yoon administration, we have to value them so that they do not shift gears. And ASEAN countries, well, actually, I say it is a kind of a god with 11 faces, different faces, and so like ourselves, well, do people like Japan? Well, these countries of the South China Sea, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, we have a footing. Also with Thailand, Myanmar is difficult, and in an anti-democratic way, it seems to be moving forward. And if there are sanctions from the West, then they will tend towards China. India surpassed China in terms of population, and they have economic power, which is about 70 to 80% of Japan. And average age for Japan 48, and then in India it's 28. 48 in China and 28 in India. And so, like China, in liberal states, so that they can lead the liberal world, we need to involve them in the future also. Together, Europe can be the same size of the US. UK is separate, but they can join the TPP, and we can work together. And UK and Europe, they have their views in Europe, and so I think it should be Japan, US, and Europe together to work together. And that would be the major flow of diplomacy for Japan. Dr. Sakaguchi. So, Ocean Policy Research Institute, you have a characteristic program that is with the collaboration with the Pacific Islands states, and I think within the international situation, this is a very important region, but despite that, in Japan, the importance may not be fully understood. Next year is the year of palm, and so what do you say with the collaboration with the Pacific Island states? Well, first of all, from the scientific viewpoint, Pacific area or resources, these are mostly marine resources, and new mineral resources on the ocean bed. This area is rich in such resources. We are gradually beginning to know that, and at the same time, as I said before, the sea temperature is rising. So tuna, high value marine resources are going north, so that they are swimming to colder waters because it's too hot for them. So the resource distribution has changed, and the Pacific is very important, clearly. On the other hand, in geopolitically speaking, the islands in the big Pacific have not been valued so much in the past. And we've been talking about China and the United States and this kind of a turf war. And from that perspective, I think this is very important. However, now this is just my personal view. To start with, as I said at the outset, oceans for the people of the world are very important. But we only know 10% of the ocean. We don't know 90%. So there is room for new value creation. And it's that kind of place, and also it is the source of our life, because it's not just water in the sea. We have water in land where it is the evaporated water of the ocean which goes to the land, and there's a cycle. So ocean is the common asset for all mankind, and that vis-a-vis that ocean, to focus on the ocean, on land, there is a structure of people confronting other people, but the ocean is a common asset for mankind, meaning it has to be protected together. That's a very important point. But if we live on land, we tend to forget this fact. The common asset to be protected together. With that kind of slogan, the ocean has the power to unify people. So instead of just trying to get more and more, the real ocean policy should aim, it's a means to aim for real peace. And I'm sorry to go off the subject of palm a bit, but what oceans should aim for is that through oceans we aim for peace of all mankind, and people on the islands are in a disadvantage. I talked about the 200 nautical miles. Compared to the land area, there is more ocean, and especially very big, the smaller you are. But you have so much cost in terms of, for example, coast guards. So for a country which is an island, and Japan is an island too, but how can we protect the islands, the marine resources, the marine environment together with these island states? I think PALM, as such a forum, should not be a place to have a power struggle. Rather, it should be a place where you think about how to protect the common asset of mankind. And in that sense, the relationship with Japan and these island states will be important forever. Sorry for such a pastoral answer. In the previous PALM, we participated as experts, and we tried to have a good meeting. And I think the leaders of the island states, the biggest challenge was climate change and their security. So in that sense, I think this is a very pressing challenge for the people of these islands, clearly. And there will be the COP next month. And the Ocean Policy Research Institute, I think, is playing a very big role for COP. Well, in the COP meetings, ocean has not been discussed so much in their long history. So how are you going to try to overcome that?
It might be repetitious, but the issue of climate change is not limited to the climate. And as I said, unknowingly, the sea temperature is rising. That also changes the climate of the world. The target is the 1.5 degrees the temperature increase, for which the world is struggling. But once the sea water is warmed, it's almost impossible to reduce that temperature. The ocean or sea has been taken the sideline so far in the COP. But however, the sea is the most important factor when it comes to the climate, and this has been proven scientifically. Of course, some countries and the regions and the people cannot do anything, even though this is the scientifically proven fact. So what we should do now, so that's why we need to act. Woods Hole Institute and we are in alliance with Woods Hole and other organizations. And starting last year, we started the Ocean Pavilion. This is the not virtual but real the pavilion, and then the major global the foundations raised their interest, and there are many foundations of the world which are connected with the royal families in the world, now increasing their attention to the ocean issues. We want to increase further their awareness, and we'd like them to act together with, because the sea and the ocean is the common heritage of mankind, and the sea has been have been affected so far, and so. But if we cannot reduce the sea temperature, then the sea or ocean will cause the problems from now into the future. So we need to further understand and discuss and act on the what the sea, what the role of the sea, and in Dubai, we will act in our alliance with with the Ocean Pavilion for a possible Dubai declaration. Thank you. So, as Executive Director of Sasakawa Peace Foundation, what do you think we are expected of? I think we are a unique the foundation in the world with our own expertise and strength. How we can leverage of expertise to be to contribute, Mr. Kanehara. As a think tank, we need to make a strong appeal to the public, because the government cannot say anything before the policy is formulated, but we can act more proactively. And since I am in the security team, unfortunately, so-called the 1955 the order, the major influence where the LDP and then the Socialist Party fought in a rock-solid confrontation with the strong the opposition to the presence of the self-defense forces, and that continued nearly until 1990s, and we have had PKO Act, and also the situation on the area surrounding Japan Act, and also the SDF for the deployment in Iraq. So we are ready to do something new. So, but what we should do in the contingency in Taiwan. So what we'll do with the India, Australia, the ROK, and Europe. These are yet to be discussed further, and also already access the agreement, and also they have to be concluded with more nations, and the cyber is another area, and also the nuclear weapons is another. issue that is still yet to be discussed and settled after nearly 50 years. So these are the agenda that we have to address. Thank you very much. I haven't have the fixed idea, but as a major foundation, we need to continue to work for the further mutual understanding. For example, for me, China, 51 years have passed since the normalization of relations between China and Japan. But how much mutual understanding has progressed? The answer is very unfortunate. I think that everyone is to blame, but we need to further narrow the gap of the mutual understanding. I appreciate that the presence of the media today. We cannot solely rely on the media, and China has its own the situation to consider. Of course, the direct the human contacts need to be more activated. And so as we continued in the past, the colonels class the exchanges between the Japanese Self-Defense Force and the People's Liberation Army of China should continue. And actually, after some years of the suspension, we resumed it very recently. So everyone has to consider and provide ideas how to further narrow the gap of ideas between nations. And also, all countries that want to understand more about China. I think, of course, that applies to Japan as well. And but only comparatively, if I say so myself, Japan has a little bit more higher level of understanding about China than many other countries of the world. So we can be of help here. We also discussed AI as well, and there are increasing number of Chinese people in Japan, and this is related to the human development, resource development issue as well. And I see many Chinese students of Chinese descent in the University of Tokyo, and they are very important seeds, so to speak, for a Japanese society. So we need to they live together, and so that they can exert their potential. We have so many problems and issues when it comes to China, and there are so many things that we need to do and address. Dr. Sakaguchi, well, since Dr. Takahara mentioned China, well, at the Ocean Policy Research Institute, for example, Sea of Japan, the East China Sea, South China Sea, and these are the same seas, but so, but who surveyed and who benefit? There is no. It's no time for us to compete because we are ignorant of 90% of these water areas. But at the government level, it's not easy. At the scientists, amongst scientists, we can do it. But the scientists it's so difficult for scientists to identify the issues to overcome before we cooperate. But we cooperate with the think tanks in China when it comes to the oceans, and so that the Chinese and the Japanese the marine scientists they collaborate for surveys and scientific research. And when it comes to the Arctic, every country should set aside their own national interests and look for a common shared interests. So the Arctic policy cooperation between Japan, Korea, and China have been one of our projects, and we have been making a smooth progress. And so, as I said, the mutual understanding is very low, so we need to educate, but the education, focusing only on the sea, is difficult to be conducted at the school. So the time only flies. So Sasakawa Peace Foundation and the Ocean Policy Research Institute provide the educational program. We provide the fund and provide the instructors. We educate the teachers so that they teach at school throughout Japan. And in Malmö, there is the World Ocean University, which teaches the seamanship and also the ocean navigation rules to educate the professionals of the sea. This is the university located in Malmö, Sweden, and we provide scholarship so that many people in the world could study there. So these might not produce immediate effect, or the government or the private companies cannot act immediately, but we can act and provide and manage programs in these areas. So I really appreciate that your coming to us to join and work together.
Due to time constraints, we could only talk about some of our activities in Middle East and the understanding of the Islam community and peace building. We have such important projects, and we have Adachi-san sitting here. So I hope that you can find Adachi-san later on. And to solve the global issues, it's really about people and education. And from last year, to the high school students all over Japan, they can study abroad in the West, and we have a scholarship system. And so Chiano-san is seen to be like their mother, and we are building the human resources for the international age. And so we hope that you can have continued expectations for the activities of the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we had Dr. Sunami, Mr. Kanehara, Professor Takahara, Dr. Sakaguchi. Thank you very much.
それでは
Now we go on to session 2. And it is the adapting to changes induced by digitalization. And we would like the members of the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research to approach the stage. And we have CEO and Executive Dr. Yuichiro Anzai, and we have the Executive Director, Mari Suzuki, and the Senior Fellow, Dr. Hikaru Hiranuma, and also Research Director and Professor at Keio University, Professor Makiko Nakamura. And now I'd like to ask Dr. Anzai to start the proceeding. So, good afternoon. So we have heard from the Sasakawa Peace Foundation representatives, and they talked about the issue of the international situation and how we can develop human resources for a brighter future. And to do both in the same symposium, I think that's quite epoch-making. That is, they are taken up separately, and I think usually they are not linked together, generally speaking, but listening to the discussion, for example, Mr. Kanehara talked about Prime Minister Yoshida, Prime Minister Kishi, and the structure that they had built up. And Dr. Takahara talked about human security and then the rise of China. And so China and the divide in domestic countries, these are they related? And there is the issue of marine policy and maritime affairs. And I feel that the Japanese university should focus more because there are very few marine departments. Japan is a major maritime power in the world, but despite the fact, we don't know much about the ocean. And so if you think about all of this together, we have this declining birth rate, but we still have to have good human resources because these are the people who will be shouldering the future Japan. So for the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research, we have various themes for policy research, and I think that we want to try to converge in that direction. Now, I don't want to take too much time from my side today, but we have 3 participants here. That is Marie Suzuki. I think she has lived in overseas for more than 10 years. She's a veteran, especially over 40 countries and 70 universities. She is in charge of a project to provide scholarships and is leading this project. And Dr. Hiranuma, especially renewable energy environment towards carbon neutral. He is an expert on energy policy. And then who is going to be shouldering the energy policy in the municipalities, for example? And I think he is eyeing that. And Professor Nakamura is a senior expert on education. And she got her PhD from Columbia University, and she's an expert in economics. She's a top leader in the world. And so we have these 3 panelists who will be speaking today. And as a whole, as was mentioned, we want to think about the changes taking place in the international community and what path Japan should follow, and to try to think about that together. So first, I'd like to ask Ms. Suzuki to take about 15 minutes at the outset. Thank you for the introduction. So this international situation in turmoil, we have taken that up, and from 3 decades ago, we have had human resource development keeping an eye towards the future and have tried to communicate to the world. And this is the Ryoichi Sasakawa Young Leaders Fellowship Fund. It's a scholarship program, and people ask, is it money to go and study abroad, or is it for Japanese study promotion overseas? No. There are 44 countries, 69 universities, and this is to cultivate the leaders of each nation as well as the leaders of the world. And up to now, we have been able to provide scholarships to more than 17,000 graduate students. Right now, there are so many issues that have to be solved on a global scale. Global warming, or you remember well the pandemic and the rapid digitalization taking place. So that the people of the world can cooperate together, we are trying to promote that kind of human resource development. We started this project in 1987, and around that time, the world was in big change. The Berlin Wall had collapsed, and there was revolutions in East Europe, and many countries started on the path toward democratization. For example, Hungary, Poland, Romania. We wanted to support these nations, and so we have a lot of these projects in East European nations. And it's 2 weeks ago in Jagiellona University in Poland, we were able to celebrate the 30th anniversary of this scholarship project and to celebrate together. And this university, you know Copernicus, and it is where Copernicus studied, and it was established in the 14th century. In this ceremony, how can we bring to the resolution the war in Ukraine? We had a discussion with the scholarship receivers and the university professors. And listening to the discussion, I felt that the leaders of East Europe had been clearly been developed over the past 3 decades.
We carry out this program also in Africa. The other day, the South Africa won the World Rugby Cup. And in 1995, when South Africa entered the World Cup for the first time, and they won the championship, we started our scholarship program in the University of the Western Cape. In the previous year, Nelson Mandela became the president, and apartheid was abolished, but unfortunately there weren't many opportunities for other people who were discriminated against under apartheid, and difficulty in adapting to the post-apartheid society. And Benjamin is one of the scholar fellow in 2001, and he strongly believed that the early childhood education is decisive for the person's life afterward, and he specialized in education, pedagogy, and he's been working for a human resource program in the most disadvantaged area.
Teacher training initiative, Basic Concepts, is especially inspiring.
Teachers are the most important aspect in any education system. It's, if we fail to see it's not the resources, it's not the hardware that we have in schools, it's about the teacher. And we are engaged directly with how to help teachers to understand what their role is. These kids are coming from homes and an environment which are less than ideal. We were just told this morning there are gangs all around the school, and we can see that children are lacking often in what we take for granted in the early childhood development. Teachers all the time are incredibly pressurized, and I think have become demoralized really in their jobs. We give them both the content and we give them a model. So it's a structured experience. And this is often what teachers in South Africa are lacking. Teachers have been teaching for a long time, for 30 years, 40 years, would say how they've never ever seen such results or responses, reactions from the children before.
This program moved the state government of South Africa, and now the state government budget is provided to educate the teachers. We will evaluate the effect, and we plan to implement this program throughout South Africa. And this is one example that the scholars, our fellows, have been producing a major impact. And we strongly expect that our fellows will be make a good effect, impact for the future of South Africa and the world. And this program started in 2000. opened to Japanese universities. Keio, Waseda, and Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University have been joining us since 2000, and we are very pleased to have Mihoko Sakurai, who is the fellow in 2013 and studied the local government management utilizing the ICT, and she visited the affected area of the Great East Japan earthquake, and she became the senior expert of the digital agency in the area of disaster prevention, digital transformation, after studying the advanced research in the United States and Norway. So I appreciate Ms. Sakurai. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Sakurai. Today's subject matter of human resource development. So I'd like to talk about two things: internationalization of researchers, and also the passing the result of the research and the co-creation. As part of the self-introduction, I have been studying the use of the information system, and particularly the management the information system, and resilience, sustainability are the keywords in my research, and how the local governments have been using digital equipment, and also the corporate the digital transformation and the smart society are the major important issues. I became the fellow of SLIFE itself about 10 years ago, and there was another scholarship which they provided the funding to study overseas, and I studied the Georgia University for 6 months in the United States for doctorate. And Association for Information System is the global academic society, and Richard Watson, the president of this university, was teaching at the Georgia University, and I was accepted by him as an intern. And it's very unusual that to accept such graduate doctorate students from other universities, but he apparently interested in my specialty. And then about 350 kilometers north of Oslo, Norway, there is a small the Agder University in Christian land community, and the information the system the department also provided the position as a postdoctorate, and I stayed there for 3 years, and I studied in the United States and Norway, and what struck me most was that the rich networking of the researchers and the doctorate. Almost every week, the researchers from other countries they stayed, sometimes for weeks or months, and that was very inspiring and surprising experience for me. It struck me home that the global borderless the community of the researchers, and now the use of digital technology. Japan is one of the leaders of digital technology, but how to use digital technology in everyday life is the area that Japan has the need to learn from other countries more. So the internationalization of the researchers in that process is very important in my opinion. So that is why I have chosen this as one of our research themes. Internationalization here doesn't simply mean that our thesis is publicized in English. We need to conduct the international joint studies, and we need to join the networking of the researchers, and in the area of management information system, the community of Japanese researchers' presence is yet to be improved, and that was for staying in Norway was a very valuable opportunity, and I think that was because of my relationship with Dr. Watson of the United States. So this is one example that the important value of the human connections and relations, and also the results of the research activities have to be reflected in everyday life. And in 2011, the great earthquakes hit, and that was the theme of my research at the time. And I visited the 12 local governments in Iwate, Miyagi, and Fukushima, how that they suffered and how they restored their digital systems. And I studied the local residents as well. And then in Norway and Japan, I have been studying how the information or digital technology should be for the better use of their local community. And after I came back from Norway, particularly in the effect of the disaster on the digital technology hasn't changed, but we see on the other hand is an increasing number of the floods or the disaster caused by the heavy rainfalls. And I have been exploring what better communication we should have at the local community level, and the local authorities and local businesses and the local people. And this is the background against which I have been offered a position at the digital agency as a senior expert in the area of disaster readiness. And I have been studying how to use the digital. Well, this is one of the results of my study. This is the result of the online survey I conducted last year. And if you look at the respondents' answers, the level of their interest in digitization and their response to the increasing digital use in Japanese society, as well as whether they are catching up with the ongoing digitization. And also the use the 4 clusters according to their responses, and we can see the distribution by group age. And the orange shows what I call digital positive, the gray shows neutral, and the blue shows that they are more or less interested in digitization, but they feel that they are not catching up, or they are they feel they are left behind. And the blue area, this is an area where people who are interested in digitization, but they feel that they are left behind. We are focusing on this group because this group exists in all age groups. And so how to support this group of people would be very important in promoting digitization of the Japanese society. And so we'd like to look to the results so that we can develop effectively human resources, and the people can utilize digital technology more effectively for everyday life.
ように頑張りたいと思っております。
桜井さんやベンジャミンさんの例からお分かりのように、
As you can see from Sakurai-san and Benjamin, these are personnel who we want to develop, not just for economic interests, but they have very warm feelings towards others, and they want to improve society. And It's these kinds of people, and they are surpassing borders and religion. We want to change society together and provide our full support. Thank you very much. Now going to Hiranuma-san, please. Thank you for the introduction. I am Hiranuma from the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research. If you could show the slides. So when we think about the path Japan should follow, I chose the theme of how to respond to the resource energy trends. If we think about the trends towards carbon neutral, energy conversion is accelerating, and there is the carbon neutral management that will become essential, and the need to disclose information. Now, how are we to respond? There is a common measure, that is, we can say one major pillar is to disseminate renewable energy. If we look back at Japan, this shows the using coal and natural gas, and against 10,000 kilowatt hour, what is the potential? And you can see it's 26,186 kilowatt hours, so it's more than double. And what will be important is that from installation to the generation, the lead time is very short. For example, solar power, and the potential is high for the offshore wind power generation. So how we can deploy this is key. Having said that, I think you have heard that renewable energy, depending on the weather, is unstable, and you cannot connect to the grid. That was the common sense of the past, but we have a background changing. That is generation and transmission, and this is connected with IoT, and the supply and demand data and weather prediction data is used, so that we can now levelize the generation. And energy supply demand system is beginning to develop, and through digital transformation being promoted, we can say that renewable energy can be promoted. So, is there no problem? Well, that's not the case. There's a basic problem in terms of the community problem. As you know, there is the wind and the solar radiation that is used. So you need to have the understanding and cooperation of the residents. And recently, people say that the scenery is worsened with the solar power, solar panels. And we have the problem of NIMBY, not in my backyard. And so in installing the renewable power generation, there are some municipalities which are negative towards this installation, and you can see it's on the increase. So you have the potential, you have the technology, but you cannot leave the community behind, otherwise you cannot disseminate. Then how is it possible to disseminate renewable energy? There are a number of examples. Here I show you the agriculture and solar power generation together. And on this slide, as you can see, it's about 3 meter high solar panel on top of the agricultural land, so that you can get income from both power generation as well as agriculture. And the agricultural land, including wasteland, 2% of that, or 100,000 hectares, if they introduce this kind of system, then it's possible to secure the 100 billion kilowatt hour. And the characteristic is that agriculture can be continued. And well, this is called solar sharing. And in Chiba Prefecture, this is being taken up by the municipality. And in Sosa City in Chiba Prefecture, they have a lot of agricultural land that's going to waste. So, well, sometimes even industrial waste is disposed of here, so they want to try to revive the land. And as a result, 1 megawatt class, we have in over 30 places under solar panels. You have soybeans and barley being grown. And part of the income is contributed to the village so that it is used for the revitalization with soybeans. Miso is made and it can be turned into an industry to create employment. So there are the large apparel company called Sasakawa, you may know Patagonia, and they have contributed funds, and they get their power directly from this project. And with regards to solar sharing, you have cooperation with private enterprise so that you can have local production and local consumption of power. In other words, this is a regional microgrid project. And also, as was mentioned, the floating type of wind power generation is going to become more important. This is in Nagasaki Prefecture in Goto City, and ahead of others in the world, in 2016, Toda Corporation and the Goto City made efforts so that they could have commercial operation of this wind power generation. And of course, the fisheries cooperatives are major stakeholders here, but not just the fishery co-ops, but also there are various groups and various companies of the community who cooperate so that they could have a project that would be conducive to the city. That has led to the fixed property tax income, and also this can be used as a artificial fishery too. And as you see in the photo, this is the floating type of the wind power generation, and you see the photo of the head of fisheries cooperative, and he says that he believes that this will improve the marine industry of Goto. Oftentimes, people think that the fisheries co-ops and the wind power generators are in a conflict, but that is not the case here. And with regards to this wind power project, last year, there was a Blue Economy Policy Program, and we have Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and 2 researchers are invited to have the joint research. And they are doing an analysis of this generation. And the analytical result is on the website, so I hope that if you have an interest, you will take a look. So to summarize the talk, the trend of the world is as indicated here towards carbon neutral. There is acceleration, and companies are trying to decarbonize. And in terms of security issues, such as in the Ukraine crisis, we can help improve on that supply-demand instability. But we will not say renewable energy just as an absolute, that you need to have to deal with the global issues. It means that the region has to play a central role, the community. But think about it. I talked about an example of Sosa City in Chiba Prefecture and the microgrid there, and Nagasaki Prefecture about the wind power generation there. In that community, do they have the know-how for microgrid? No. And so they had a lot of difficulty in that respect. That means that there has to be the local human resource education and development in order to deal with the renewable energy dissemination centering on the community. With that, I'd like to stop here. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. Next, Dr. Nakamura, please. Thank you very much. Thank you for your introduction. My name is Nakamura of the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research. So, human resource development for the future. I'd like to share today with you what I have been thinking about this important theme. Under the Kishida government, an expert group meeting was convened for a digital administrative reform using the digital technology. And in this the expert group, we have been discussing the human resource development among many other issues, because the shortage of manpower is one of the most important serious issues. For example, there aren't enough the nurses, school teachers, or taxi drivers. So these are the very eminent issues today. So I think we might not be able to access all the public services that we took it for granted. So 18 to 64 years group, I think will the number is now 70 million, but in 2065, this age group, 15 to 64, is expected to reduce to the 45 million, and the 20% of the 70 years and older are working, including my father. Since the elderly people are in the workforce yet, we manage to receive, they have the access to various services, but the human resources are very scarce. One of the very acute area is the long-term care, and the 60% of the people who are in the age 85 are expected to require some long-term care, but there will be a shortage of 600,000 the people working for the long-term care for the elderly people. Of course, there might be two solutions to this problem. One, the increase the labor productivity of each person. So perhaps each person could produce twice or three times more than they do today. That would solve the problem. And the second solution, the replacing the human manpower with the machines. For example, in the long-term care, robotics, the introduction of robotics, or the use of sensors in order to detect the people, the person is tossing or the turning in the bed and so on. So that part of the manpower, human labor, is replaced by digital technology. So these are the two possible solutions to the shortage of the manpower. Then how can we utilize these the solutions to human resource development program? Well, we need to be careful, because simplification, reduction of human labor, or the cutting out something cannot be done easily before we know that about the potential impact, negative impact on children. So this is the material that we part of the material that we presented to the Prime Minister as our suggestions concerning the administrative reform, the digital administrative reform. Of course, we need to be careful before devising and formulating policy and implementing them. So we need whatever we do at the government level have to be based on the solid evidence. For example, the ICT assisted education, what have been known that have to be identified, clarified before making suggestions to the Prime Minister. That's the process we took during the COVID. Several countries pushed strongly forward the use of the ICT use in education. We have the accumulation of the various evidence from other countries. So we studied there and what's yet to be clarified and what can be emulated for Japan. These are the things that we did in the expert group. In Japan, what we have the Giga School program, that is the one laptop per child. That is completed. Not only Japan, but several other countries implemented this. But several programs of other countries failed miserably because instead of studying, children used a laptop for viewing YouTube or gaming. So instead of simply distributing a laptop to children, what matters is how to change children's attitude toward studies or learning. So computer-assisted learning, if we have the rich contents for computer-assisted learning, then children's productivity, so to speak, or the effect of study has been improving according to many literature. So some research say that this is very the effective, very cost-effective compared to other educational measures. And because the teaching, the computer-assisted learning enables teaching at the right level, or the individually optimized the learning is possible with the computer-assisted learning. If the class size is large, then the teacher, it's difficult for teachers to focus on what level of the students. Whether the very high-performing students or the low learners, it really depends. But if the class size is large, either side of students will be left behind. But in computer-assisted learning enables the teachers to provide individually optimized teaching or teaching at the right level. But at the same time, the research proves that the CAL cannot substitute teachers. The computer-assisted learning will not eliminate the teachers. CAL simply complement the teachers, and if the CAL is used to substitute teachers, then the program failed. So the laptop under the Giga School program should be utilized for optimizing the education for each pupils and teachers, students, but the quality teachers, of course, will continue to be important. The high quality teaching and teachers will remain at the center of teaching. So, and that have to be considered in hiring and developing teachers. and the digital transformation should be utilized to reduce the burden, non-teaching burden on teachers. For example, the assisting the entrance exams and also the collecting money for school lunches. For such the supplementary the tasks, digitization should be utilized to reduce the burden on teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Shimomura, former education minister. We have other members, and we have ambassadors too. And they have been listening to international situation and computer-assisted learning. And I think some are wondering how we are going to summarize, and some people may have questions, but we don't have much time. So I'm going to represent you in asking the speakers a question. So Suzuki-san and Sakurai-san too. Sasakawa Peace Foundation, Dr. Sunami talked about the dispatch of young people abroad. And Suzuki-san, in terms of the future, of course, there is, in reality, issues of security, but the international exchange amongst young people, which will be forming a base. What is your prospect? From your experience, what is your view? Scholarship project, should it be promoted further? What is it that we should do? If you could give a specific answer to that. Thank you very much. Scholarship project has taken place for over 3 decades, and 69 universities were mentioned, and there are 10 Chinese universities out of that. And when we provided scholarships to Chinese universities, it was after the Cultural Revolution, and the other Western countries were worried about investing in China. So it was from those days that we provided scholarships. And at that time, economically speaking, China was not so rich. Therefore, the value of the scholarships were high. And we have 17,000 recipients, and close to half are from China. And they had economic difficulty to continue studying, but scholarships provided assistance. And they felt its importance. Now, due to political issues, we cannot go to China, but in 2017, in China, there was a celebration of the 25th anniversary of the program, and a lot of the scholarship recipients said because of the scholarship, they were able to continue to study, and stated their impressions to that extent. There might not be direct exchange right now, but they are, I think, keeping that in mind, and I think we can continue the exchange at a later date. And I believe that our subsidy or research, we have research subsidies, and that is being used. So on a global level, to promote people-to-people exchange, I think we can continue to promote this scholarship project. There may be the political limitations, but I think it will lead to a better future. Thank you very much. In session 1-2, I think it was mentioned that there are things that the government find it difficult to do, but think tank can do quite openly. And in order to stably maintain the international community, think tanks have such a role to play. I think that was mentioned by Mr. Kanehara, and I agree. And as we heard from Suzuki-san, I think that's exactly the case. Now, Hiranuma-san, Dr. Hiranuma, you have visited the municipalities all over Japan, and the renewable energy project activation is what you are promoting with the cooperation of the region. Realistically, whether the municipalities can be active sustainably, I think there are various challenges. So I'd like to ask about your prospects for the future. Thank you very much. As I explained earlier, the municipalities, local government, towards decarbonization, they are going to aim for carbon neutral in 2025. So what can they do? Among the municipalities, there are those having much difficulty, and I think these differences are becoming clear. Where they have a lot of know-how, it's going forward, but where not, they are being left behind. So I think this kind of gap is going to be seen. And that being the case, what is necessary is that whatever energy system is going to be established, the role of the community, in other words, a grand design of the energy system, has to be made clear and indicated with the government. Otherwise, you don't know what to do. I think that is the most important point. And if that becomes clear, then what is it that you have to do, and what kind of people are required, and who do you have in the municipality? And in terms of thinking about what to do, if there is a model of success in another municipality, then I think that that can be a reference. So we would like to create such a successful models. These are the municipalities who have succeeded in decarbonization. The Sosa City that I've introduced, the solar sharing, I think they have been chosen as a successful model. So we would like to see more of such cases. Thank you very much. Professor Nakamura, I have also been engaged in educational issues, and so I wanted to ask you at the end, the quality of the instructors, the teachers. I think it's important to hire the quality teachers. How can you do that realistically? Because there's a shortage of teachers right now, which is a big issue. And so you could have security at the top, but what about the junior high school students? How are you going to develop them? I think there is where the quality of the teachers will be important, and it will be an important challenge for Japan. It may be challenging, but I think that we need to review the licensing system right now. The elementary school teachers examination success rate, well, it's about 1.1 times, and right now there are those teachers that could teach without a teaching license, and for 4 positions, 700 applied. So if you have technology and knowledge, then you can do that, and there are quite a lot of people who want to do this. It might be challenging, but I think there could be test runs. You can be agile to see what method works. Thank you very much. Yes, there are so many things that I'd like to ask you, but we have session 3 following this, so I am being instructed that I should wrap up. And well, I would have liked to ask more questions, but from session 1, we have been looking at the big changes in the Japanese international situation and the path that we need to follow. And So based on that, we have to promote the human resource development. I'm close to being the baby boomer generation. There were about 2.7 million people, but now 800,000. And so social structure, economic structure will have to be changed. Otherwise, as was mentioned from Nakamura-san, each person will have to have added value. And it is going to be increasingly difficult to do that. And the problem there has, well, we talked about the ocean and environmental issues, China, energy, international exchange, and education. And in each of these areas, we need people who will be shouldering the activities. But due to the declining birth rate, numbers will be limited. So that means that there's going to be a fight to get the children. And as mentioned earlier, I myself personally think about the peace strategies. Peace is not possible just with pacifism. And so, well, personally speaking, I think that's a route for Japan. But whatever you do, people building for the future is going to be required. And in session 1, session 2 today, and we're going to have session 3, we would want, at this opportunity, to think about the path Japan is to follow and the present situation and what it is that we need to do. So I hope that you will take the time to do this, and so you could say that the ball is in your hands. I would like to close this session here. Thank you very much.
どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Dr. Anzai, Ms. Suzuki, Dr. Hiranuma, Dr. Nakamura, thank you very much.
それでは壇上の準備が整いました。
Now we are ready for the next session, session 3, the human resources required for a bright future. I welcome the moderator and panelists. Our professor Professor Kan Suzuki, Graduate School of Public Policy, the University of Tokyo, and the Project Professor, Graduate School of Media and Governance, Keio University. The moderator and panelists are Dr. Atsushi Sunami, President of Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and Dr. Yuichiro Anzai, CEO and Executive Director of Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research. Over to you, Professor Suzuki. Thank you very much. I think it will take as long as 30 hours amongst three of us, but we have only 30 minutes. Since the 20th century, for these crossing the century, we have known these two panelists. And when the Ministry of the Education revised the course of studies for schools, I had close relations with Professor Anzai. And we had sessions 1 and 2 moderated by these panelists. So I believe that they now have many things that they want to talk about. But they are at the center of the human resource development programs and projects. So I appreciate what they are feeling right now. That is my first question. And at the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research or at the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, well, I have learned a lot today already, but what these two foundations and the other organizations in the Nippon Foundation Group, well, they have been doing the really great projects and the programs already so far. But I'm interested in their future plans. So of course that would be then perhaps enough for 30 minutes time frame. So what do you think of the human resource development? First, with Dr. Sunami, please. Thank you. When I am with Professor Suzuki on a stage like this, the time really flies. But we are in the think tank, so what we do in studies and what we publish as the policy suggestions. I think we have already talked about them already, but our focus is always ultimately human resources or people. We identify social issues and translate them into the programs or study them and for social implications. But to do this, the human resource is very limited still. In Japan, we need more people who are knowledgeable about the world. Area studies and the oceans and related themes. In all of these areas, we need the leading researchers or leading the experts in Japan, but our number is still sorely lacking. This is a very acute issue that we have. Of course, all of these are extremely challenging issues. It's not easy to find solutions, but as we often talk with Professor Suzuki, innovation is perhaps a key. We need to innovate. We need to network with the different organizations, different people, so that we can be effectively and nimbly work and act for solutions. And that, of course, requires the appropriate human resources. Then Dr. Anzai. At the Tokyo Foundation for Research, Policy Research, we carry out various research projects, including the economics, the social security, and health and medical survey, and the science and technology policy as well. And as the Professor Suzuki said, international exchange or providing scholarship to foreign students coming to Japan, or students studying, Japanese students studying overseas. But the common thread of all of this is a human resource development. And and I agree with what Dr. Sunami said. We need people who are able to look at the world, or people with a global perspective or vista. And also the innovation is essential. We need to innovate the world, the society. So we need innovators so that we can change the society for the better. Gradually, the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research would like to focus our attention or the into that direction. The 150 years have passed since the Meiji Revolution, and we have seen many changes, but I think this lack of human resources is the largest issue for Japan. This is our understanding. Of course, I agree, and that's why that human resource development is my lifelong work. And when I was a student, I studied labor law, and I joined the Ministry of the Trade, International Trade and Trade, international the trade and economy, and I also headed the Ministry of Education. Of course, for human resource development for the 21st century, all of the national government have to be involved, and the Ministry of Transport is the area for the shipping and the maritime and the marine areas, and then of course the Ministry of Education has a role to play for human resource education for the primary, the secondary, and higher education. And so the one issue is the silo structure of the government. Of course, the Ministry of the Labor, Education, and the Transport, and the METI, there are still the walls or barriers, so to speak, between these ministries, even though they have been lowered over the last 20 years. And also in the policy for education, we can discuss in depth and very the detailed areas, but we also have the broader perspective as policy makers, and we also have to the teachers and teaching the faculty members are at the center of the actual education. So we need to have a platform and a community of all these other people on board.
So, taking the leadership most flexibly, listening to you, I felt were think tanks and Sasakawa Peace Foundation and the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Research in combination. And it is something that I would definitely like you to do. Dr. Anzai from the Tokyo Foundation side, please. Well, Professor Suzuki was the Minister of Education for the longest time, and I think there's a limitation to the ministry. Oh yes, it is a competence of the ministry, and that's how it's viewed. In terms of documents, yes, but security, if you think about that, there is Munemitsu Mutsu of the past, and people like him. Who is going to be shouldering Japan going forward? Well, I think you need to go beyond the boundary of the Ministry of Education, and it's as you say, whether it be environment or ocean issues. So just thinking about such learning, you have to have a grand vision. But in the issue of education, just one person saying things, I think education is like a bedrock that's not going to change because of what's happened since the Meiji era, and so I think that means that many people should share information and share what we should do in the new age. In that sense, I think the role of think tanks is great, and probably Sasakawa Peace Foundation and the Tokyo Foundation for Policy Reach. I found today that we have a lot of contact points, so to speak, and we hope that we can collaborate further. Thank you very much, Dr. Sunami. Actually, in the United States, I was studying in the graduate school there, and from the Tokyo Foundation at the time, I received support, and there was someone working young researchers working in Washington, D.C. in think tanks there created a network. And if we could have a full-fledged think tank in Tokyo, we felt that that would be a good support. And at the time in Japan, Tokyo Foundation was a pioneer to set up a think tank, and they were ahead of other private sector foundations. And we wondered, outside the government district, can you really have think tanks and research and communicate to the world and have influence? What was said at the time is that we don't have the people. And that's often said in talking about innovation. And so we received the funding from Tokyo Foundation. And in Washington, D.C., there were Japanese people who were working in think tanks. And we picked up about 50 people to create a network. That was the start. So the ecosystem of think tanks, I think, has to start functioning in Japan. And Professor Suzuki, in the government, we were having discussions, and it was what you were trying to do. And so in that sense, in the process of people being developed, the role of think tanks is actually quite great. And so the barriers between ministries and the segmentation of academia, well, think tanks are not aiming for that. We want a problem solution, we want to gather knowledge, and we want to collaborate with the world so that we can come up with the policy issues. I would say that is the important role of think tanks, and people can develop within that kind of structure. And I would want to see such an ecosystem. Yes, I would hope that you would build such an ecosystem. And I have viewed the government from inside and outside, and the limitations of government. Well, now, the public servants are mostly Japanese, the Diet members are mostly Japanese, and it is usually the Japanese mass media who is reporting. So that means that it tends to be inward-looking people and inward-looking people policy, and it can't be helped because this is a democracy. And Dr. Anzai and with Mr. Shimokawa, you came up with reform so that we could take a global perspective and we could tackle with the issues in the field. And I think we've gone as far as maybe 60 or 70 points, but with regards to the remaining 30, there's still some aspects that are regrettable because it tends to be pulled by the perspective by Japanese for the Japanese. So the human development ecosystem going forward has to be completely open and global, and we have to create such an ecosystem. And think tanks don't have a boundary, and academia doesn't have borders, as Sakurai-san said. And if you take the initiative there, then a completely open global and shouldering Japan, but also shouldering the world. We want human resource development like that. And it's important who's going to be the host. So people that will influence the people selection and who you want to change for. Now, also today there was mention of think tank and do tank, and Ms. Marie Suzuki talked about 17,000 graduate students. It's a global network to solve the problems of the world. And Benjamin-san and Sakurai-san, I was very impressed. And they are the people who can transcend the academic disciplines to make improvements, which is wonderful. And also towards the education tank, I think this could be the symposium today, to create an education tank. And can you, Dr. Anzai, comment? Especially elementary, junior high, and high school education is based on a course of study, and the course of study right now, I think Professor Suzuki and myself, we did the preparatory work, and so I think it's beginning to be quite open. But as far as I see, it's the age of digital, DX, so that even children can access all kinds of information. So in that sense, learning is now open in this age. What does that mean? The social issues in the world, including security, even children can now think about issues of security because of this kind of open learning. And so think tanks, education think tank or learning think tank, it could be a forum for learning, different from schools, to look at the reality of the world. What should be the problems to be resolved? And so against those issues, even children, so to speak, well, they can learn. And I think that could be one direction for think tanks to take.
I think the learning from now is will be the project based ones, and as a think tank, you have been running various programs, and you have the great possibility for new learning. Yes, the other day, a new school was established with a major contribution of Professor Suzuki. That rang a bell, because you are really a practitioner for the diversification of education, and well, I think that was the education intended to find a solution to problem that would be very important to provide rich human resources to address future issues. And 4 years ago, I became the president of the foundation, and before that, I was among the teaching staff of GRIPS. And so I practiced the education. So I experienced these the issues day by day. So through activity of the think tank and through various practices, we need to develop the rich human resources, and we have the non-national staff, and we need to increase that more, and we need to be able to accumulate or collect the knowledge in Tokyo, so that we can be good the place for education and learning. I think this is a role of the higher education, but they are bound by a very rigid regulation. For example, 124 credits are necessary for graduation, for example. And so during the COVID, the online learning they increased with the Tokyo University and also the the KO is one of the leaders in that, but because of the ruling from the Ministry of Education, the less than the credit that the students are expected to gain through online learning should be up to 60 credits, not anymore. So we need to be on the ground, and we need to also utilize online. So classroom and online, we need to combine these two. That would be our best. But unfortunately, we might need to take steps backward. But some schools have difficulty in filling out all the places they offer for new entrants, but also there is still a wide gap between the female and the male students, high school students, in terms of how much of them goes on to colleges, particularly in the rural areas. So the universities in Japan are strongly bound by various official regulations, even though they want to do many things more. And graduate schools have more freedom gradually, but they are still have limitations. But you are think tanks, not the universities, and innovation of their learning is taking place at your think tanks, and your experience should be presented and should be known more widely. Today, well, even though I didn't experience myself, but in the end of the Edo period and the beginning of the Meiji era, many people yearned for advanced knowledge in Japan. And there are many privately established schools, what we call juku, and Keio was one of them. So Mr. Kanehara and Dr. Sunami, Dr. Sakaguchi, and Dr. Takahara, can they teach what they know directly to students. Instead of expecting the people to prepare before coming to you to learn from you. I think what the Japanese leaders are about to do, and what other options that should be available for them. I think I don't simply appraise or praise think tanks, but our foundation and the Sasakawa Peace Foundation can play such a role. Thank you, Dr. Sunami. At Sasakawa Peace Foundation, we have mostly the programs they carried out overseas, outside of Japan. So we need to be diversify ourselves in language and culture. So wherever you go in the world, there are issues to be addressed, and we need to work on them. That's our role. So diversity and the various the various way of thinking, accepting various values are important. So in Gaza, we see the situation developing, initiated by Hamas. But most of our projects are carried out in Islamic countries. Of course, that act on October 7th is not acceptable. But what we should do facing such a situation. But China, North Korea, and Russia, we need to carry out. We as think tanks, they can play a role, important role to play in developing dialogues with these neighboring countries. And to do this, we need many people who are able to do this within ourselves. But the number is still in short. So very early on, we wanted to begin educational programs by establishing scholarship programs. That is diversifying the e-learning and the education opportunities. And the Nippon Foundation and the others group organizations are doing this for long. So in order to, we need the rich human resources in order to expand these valuable programs as well. If you look at the education policy of Japan, I think the recognizing what we are ourselves, they have to be improved, because in the 20th century, Japan was the second largest economy. And so there was always a place or a seat for Japan. And then, assuming in Japan, all Japan needed to do was to choose the best person to be seated in that seat, and we look to the METI at that time. But today, there is no seat available, automatically available to Japan. We need to ask to have a seat, open a seat for Japan. Instead of Japan passing, we might see Japan nothing. So the Japanese, the parliamentarians, the bureaucrats, and the media have to recognize this, because when we were born, for today's people, the society is there is the globalized world every day, and we see constant inflow of the news feed from Gaza, for example. But I think why don't you provide your programs that are open to not only to higher education but also to junior high and high school students?
Well, if you think about the future of Japan, talent development, if I may raise one idea, I thought about it for a long time, but it has to be feasible within the budget and something doable. I thought about, from Japan, to send 1,000 PhD students in a year, and per person, let's say it requires 10 million and 5 years for PhD, and you come back and you also need a position. Otherwise, young people are not going to apply. So if you come back, you are assured of a position in university or think tank. So that means 20 million for 5 years in an organization, and that is calculated, and that means we need 150 billion a year. If this can be done with 150 billion, of course, 1,000 is not just engineering. I'm talking about social sciences, not the researchers, but these are the future leaders of Japan. And to learn in a PhD course. This would have been done by the Meiji government. I think Japan has to catch up with the world. We're now back to that age. And I think we tend to lose sight of that in Japan because people think that Japan is advanced and people are coming to Japan. But I think it's the reverse. It's the age of Japan passing, and you have to dispatch people from Japan and then have them come back. Otherwise, we cannot rejuvenate. And I think, yes, if it was the Meiji government, they would have done that. 150 billion, and in that sense, it's not that expensive. The United States, for higher education, invests 3% of the GDP. The government, 1%, private sector, donations, joint research, 1%, and the self-burden is 1%. What about in Japan? The government, 0.75 of GDP, no, individuals 0.75, and government 0.5, and 0.25 by the private sector, so it's only a total of 1.5%. And so, for society as a whole, Japan has to invest about 7 to 8 trillion yen per year. And the Abe administration tried to work hard. And the supply of the funds to universities at the time, Prime Minister Abe and the Minister Shimomura, but that's 760 billion yen, which is a big deal, and it was an increase of 760 billion yen for the educational budget. 150 billion is natural. And so Japan has left untouched this issue for a long time. And it's not just dispatching people. 30 years ago, I was in charge of semiconductors in MITI. And if you do symposiums recently, then you're called to talk about the reason for the defeat. In other words, TSMC of Taiwan, we have to ask them to come to Kumamoto. It's gone that far. And the reason for that is varied, but I think what is decisive is that Taiwan has a population of a little less than 25 million, and they have 100,000 or a little over in engineering department, ROK, 50 million, and in Japan, 125 million and 100,000. And so in terms of the population ratio, and I think Dr. Anzai came up with such a report, we need the 3.2 million is required for the cultivation every year for the engineering. Then who's going to bear this fund? So we've already diagnosed the problem, but in terms of the investment, how can we change the structure of investment of society? The players are working hard, and I always say, Japanese universities, the engineering departments, the science departments are doing well, and in top 5%, we've come up to 118, more than the UK, but actually it's just it's an error of synthesis, and I think we have to have a grand vision and design the ecosystem as a whole. But I've been told that we have to stop. So finally, Dr. Sunami and Dr. Anzai, if you could give your last message before we close. Among our researchers, there is a senior researcher called Abiru-san. And in Russia recently, there was a question directly asked to Mr. Putin about the exchange between Japan and Russia. And I said, don't become too conspicuous, but it hit the news. So as you said, Professor Suzuki, you have to try and open up the path yourself, because there's no longer a seat available for the Japanese. You have to go to the field where the problem is. And Abiru-san asked the question in Russian. How should I put it? These people have to be sent to all kinds of places for all kinds of issues. Otherwise, Japan is not just going to sink, it's going to become smaller and smaller on the map. So in that sense, we're talking about human resource development today, and to develop people, our activities have to contribute somehow, because otherwise our activities itself is going to shrink. Thank you very much. Dr. Anzai, please. So, inclusive of session 1, we have been discussing international politics going beyond a multipolar. All over the world, the government is in a very strange place. The economy is global, and society is diverse. And furthermore, information distribution, well, fake information is rampant. So thinking about all this, digital is pushing things from behind. And that being the structure, Japan's seeing rapid decrease of its population and declining birth rates. So in a word, the position of Japan in the international situation is clear, and how can we produce people to make changes? I think it has to be people who can react in a real-time manner. I think those are the people that need to be cultivated. And Yukichi Fukuzawa wrote a book about the recommendation of a study, academic study, and he says the difference between a smart person and a not smart person, in other words, it has to do with whether you can learn or not. So if you think broadly about learning, then how are we to have young people ingest these very hot topics in a live way? And I think we should be indicating the way forward. Thank you very much. Hope that you will set up within the Nippon Foundation group an Anzai Sunami school, so to speak. So it's really about people, and Fukuza took the initiative to change Japan, and I have a relationship with Hagi. And Shokasan Juku only taught 92 people, and University of Tokyo, Tokyo Institute of Technology, and Mitsubishi Shipbuilding, Nissan, and Hitachi Fukuhara-san, they are from Hagi, and 92 people and their disciples. The first initiative was taken by those with the noble aspirations, and it was like a butterfly effect which grew. So today, I hope that this will be the first step, and I thank you for your initiative from the two of you, and would like to close part 3 here. Thank you very much.
セッション3未来を
Thank you very much, Professor Zuki, Dr. Sunami, and Dr. Anzai. This concludes session 3, Human Resources Required for a Brighter Future. Once again, please send the distinguished speakers the round of applause. Dr. Izumi Kadono, President of Tokyo Foundation of Policy Research, offers the closing remarks. Thank you very much. You may be surprised whether this would further continue. Well, the Nippon Foundation donates the funding to these two foundations, organizations. We really appreciate the great turnout in this room and online for this jointly organized symposium. Thank you very much. The heartfelt thanks to all the speakers who took the podium, and also my sincere thanks to all the staff members without whom this the symposium would have been impossible. We have been this is the first step that we mark for the development of human resources needed for a brighter future. Of course, the future would depend on you, but we will continue to utilize our expertise so that we can continue to make a contribution to Japan and to the world as think tanks. We really appreciate your ongoing warm, strong support. Thank you very much. Once again, thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon today.
角野理事長
Dr. Kadono, thank you very much. This concludes the symposium. We appreciate your feedback by filling out the questionnaire survey that is part of the package that you have received. And when you click the exit online, you will see the questionnaire survey screen. I appreciate your cooperation. Thank you very much.